Hello everyone, how are you? I see few of you have joined. Thank you so much for being on time, right? I see Vanshika there, Shrishti, Sushil is there, Kushi is there, Anushka, thank you so much for joining on time. We will just wait for 10-15 seconds for others to join in and then we will start, right? I hope the last session was also nice. I think we discussed about the introduction of what strategic management is, what management is all about, what are the different levels. Right? We'll just go through that briefly today as well for 5-7 minutes, and then we'll straight away jump into chapter two, which is extremely interesting. Right? It talks a lot about competition, how to fight competition, how to win competition. It's quite interesting. Right, I see Manish has joined. Vanshika, yes, thank you, Vanshika. Good to know you all are fine. Great, great. I see Chetna Vedi is there, Ria is there. Thank you. Hope everything is fine and good. And next 5 seconds, and we'll quickly jump into the session for today. Hi, Subhati. So thanks, Anushka. I think the last session was good. I had that feeling as well, right? That the session was quite good. We interacted a lot on strategy, strategic management, what it is all about, how are different levels of management working, what are the decisions they are taking. Very good examples, I think, right? We discussed on. All right. So today we're going to study chapter two, right? Today the topic is chapter number two, which talks about dynamics of competitive strategy. Now, when I talk dynamics, right, dynamics means the different aspects, the different characteristics, the different things, how dynamic that particular thing is. If I give you an example, right, when I talk about dynamic, think about Ranveer Singh. Okay, think about Ranveer Singh. He is dynamic. That means he's doing action, he's doing comedy, he's doing dancing, he's doing serious roles, he's doing funny roles. He's out there as one of the biggest fashionistas out there. Right? He's dynamic. There are different aspects to him. Similarly, when we talk about competitive strategy, we're going to study about the dynamics of competitive strategy, right? How different companies use different competitive strategies to win over customers, to win over the competition, right? That is what this chapter is all about. A very lengthy chapter, I would say. A lot of things to learn, a lot of interesting things to learn. This is something that the businesses are doing day in, day out. Microsoft, Google, Facebook, like biggest brands out there. Alibaba is there, Uber is there, right? Flipkart is there, Amazon is there. All these companies are day in, day out working on their competitive strategy. They're planning, they're strategizing to win more customers and to win over their competition, right? And this is what this chapter is going to tell you about. This is super interesting to learn and to study from a business perspective. The only thing I keep telling in this particular subject is you have to have a business acumen, you have to have a business mindset when you're studying this particular subject, right? This is why I think this is the most practical of the subjects. You might think this as a theory subject, you have to learn a lot of things, but this is one of the most practical subjects in chartered accountancy, where this is going to be used immensely in your career for the next 20-25 years, right? Okay. Now, before we jump into chapter two, let us just quickly revise. Just look at what we studied in chapter number one, which is introduction. Right? We studied about business policy, a broad thought process. We studied about the concept of management, the people at the top taking key decisions. Right? The management, key decision makers, key aspects of business. What is the concept of strategy? Where did it come from? Right? What are the different proactive and reactive, the combination, right? The combination of proactive and reactive makes up strategy. What is strategic management? Those 5-6 steps. What is the importance and what are the limitations? It's a costly process. It requires a lot of effort. What is the good thing? It gives you competitive advantage, right? It helps as a guide. It gives you a framework, right? And what about strategic management in government and non-government, not-for-profit organizations? We studied about Governments, they want fund, they want more taxes. Not-for-profit organizations want money. Right? So they also have to be strategically aligned. They have to be strategically managed to get those funds, to keep their business, to keep their initiatives, to keep their ideologies alive and functioning. Right? And then we also discussed about strategic levels in organization, the functional level, the business level, and the corporate level. Right? The corporate being at the top, then we have the business level, and then we have the functional level, right? At the third level. Right? So this is something, an introduction we studied, wherein one of the most important things was that strategic management helps you give a competitive advantage. Now we studied about competitive advantage, wherein we talked about what actually is competitive advantage, right? We talked about what actually competitive advantage is all about, right? It is about having something unique which is valued by the customer, right? You remember we talked specifically that it should be valued by the customer. It should not be something that you value. It should be something that the consumer, the customer values, and that is your competitive strategy. And that is your competitive strategy, right? Okay. Before we jump into chapter number 2, we did a summary of chapter 1, and I'll see a few questions. I think I have a few questions. We'll take that up quickly before we jump into chapter 2, right? Great. So what is SBU? Ria has a question. What is SBU? We talked about it, Ria. SBU is a separate segment which functions as a business in itself within the business, right? We talked about the example of your footwear business having men, having women, and having kids segment functioning as a separate business in itself, separate functions within itself. That is what an SBU is, right? Great, Aditya, I'm doing good. Hope you are also doing good, right? Sure, yeah, I think you can take screenshots of the screen probably and then zoom, right? Because I think in a small screen it's difficult to put in a lot of like theoretical or like writing out there. So that is why I keep interact and talk more than looking at the PPT, right? Okay, now let us quickly jump into chapter number 2, right? Chapter number 2, the first and the foremost thing is competitive strategy. Now, what is competitive strategy? Like we talked about strategic management, under it we have competitive strategy. Now, what is the competitive strategies? It is attributes. That means these are the characteristics that allows an organization to outperform its competition, right? Something which you have better and that helps you win over your competition is something that competitive strategy is all about, right? How do you win over your competition? As simple as that. As you look at the photo, you have to win over others who are running as fast as you, as smart as you, as intelligent as you. You have to win. So what is your strategy? What is that one thing that you are doing extra? That is one thing. What are the different smart things that you are doing to win the competition? And that is what competitive strategy is all about, right? We will study about this. What is it? What are the different things that companies do? How do they do it? What are the different like ideas they bring in? What are the different techniques they use, right? Okay. So first and foremost, when I say you have to have a competitive strategy, when I tell you have to develop a competitive strategy, what does it mean? The first and foremost thing you need is to have an in-depth investigation and analysis of yourself. You have to know who you are, what are your strengths as a business, right? As a business, the business has to know what are their strengths, what are they good at, what are they not good at, right? So they have to do an in-depth investigation and analysis of themselves, and more importantly, of their competitors, right? Of the competitive landscape, That means all the people, all the businesses which are there competing with them. So Uber has to think about what we are good at. We as a business in Uber are good at. We also have to investigate and analyze what Ola is good at, what Meru Cabs is good at, right? You have to analyze when you are, let us suppose you are the CEO of Uber, you will see, all right, now this is something that we do better than everyone in the market. However, This is something that Ola does better. So you have to analyze and investigate everything within yourself and the competitive landscape as well. This is the first and foremost thing that you need to do. Analyze yourself and the competition, right? What does it help to do? It helps in choosing and implementing an effective strategy, right? It helps when you know what you're good at, when you know what your competition is good at, it helps you identify, that is, choose and implement a strategy that is best suited for your business, right? And to improve your competitive advantage. What is competitive advantage? Which is unique to you and it is valued by the customer, right? Okay, let's take an example. Let's take an example of Mr. E, who has made unconventional business choices into electric vehicles, into Starlinks, into Neuralink, which is your satellite internet, into your brain mapping, into your biotechnology, where there were less competition, right? To help fund activities undertaken by his another business, right? Which gave him competitive advantage against its competition. So what strategy Mr. E used? Mr. E started businesses in unconventional areas where not many people were investing money. He went there and started investing money in those businesses where no one else was investing money. So this was something, a strategy that he built because he knew I'm good at finding new businesses, I'm good at marketing new businesses. Let me go and start something new, something where very few people are working. So that is one of the competitive strategies. How he could do that? Because he analyzed himself and the competitive landscape that not many people are doing it. Let us go and do it. Right? So that is the first step in competitive strategy. Analyze yourself and the competition outside and then plan what to do. Right? Okay. Wonderful. The question from Aditya is actually the tech person. Okay. So you're telling me this. Got it. Sure. I think from next time, probably what we'll do is we'll keep the PPT like more in more areas than me, right? Okay. I think I'm taking a lot of limelight. Okay. So you don't want me to be there on the screen. Not an issue, Aditya. We'll not do that. We'll keep me in a smaller area and we'll keep the PPT on a larger area. That is noted. We'll do that. Okay. Coming from this, there's a question now. All right. Coming from this, what we have studied, there's a question. I have also put in timer. Right. The timer tells you that in exams, like this timer is quite quick. However, in exams, from the next questions that will be coming, there will be a timer as well. So you have to be quick in reading and answering, right? What this helps is in exams, you will have very less time. Okay, so this timer will get over, not an issue. From next questions, we'll keep an eye on the timer as well. So the question on the screen is, Dash is a group of firms whose products have same and similar attributes such that they compete for same buyers. What do we call such group of firms? Is it called industry? Is it called value chain? Is it called competitive landscape, we just talked about? Or is it called competitive advantage? Right? I think a very, very simple question, right? What is a group of firms whose products have same attributes, similar attributes, such that they compete for the same buyers? What do we call them collectively? What do we call them collectively? It's a very simple question. Yes, Sanjay, Mr. E is Elon Musk, but who is Mr. B? I'll give you an example. Maybe someone from Amazon, right? Mm. Could be. In the question, does firms refer to competitors? I don't know. Read the question carefully. Probably no one is going to help you in the exams. So let us see if we can find the answer. All right, I have a few answers. Let us see. I will wait for everyone to answer. Great. Let's come to the option. And the answer is industry, right? The answer is industry. Industry is a group of firms whose products have same and similar attributes, such that they compete for the same price. So collectively, all these firms are called industry. Collectively, all these firms are called industry, right? They're called industry. That is right. Great. So Manish has a question. Is mobilization of resources includes in definition of business policy? Manish, I would want you to find the answer to it. I know the answer. Let us see if you can read and get the answer. It's a good question. It's a good question. I'll park that and we'll come to that. But till then, think about it. Should it be or shouldn't it be? Mobilization of resources. Bringing together resources, it includes in business policy or not. Right? Think about it. Okay, now let us get into the next segment. We talked about what is competitive advantage, what is competitive strategy, how do you develop, what is the first step in developing competitive strategy, right? Now the thing is, what are the steps involved to win in a competitive landscape, right? In a competitive landscape, what is competitive landscape? Competitive landscape is everyone who is your competition, right? Everyone who is your competition is a part of competitive landscape. Everyone who is your competition is part of your competitive landscape, right? Everyone who is your competition is part of the competitive landscape, right? Now, what are the steps to know your competitive landscape? What are the steps that help you understand that who and who all are there in your competitive landscape, right? The first one is to identify the competitors. Who are the people who are doing the same business? Who are the people who are acquiring the same customers as you, right? Who are those people, right? What are those businesses which are there doing the same business, getting the same customers? Who are they, right? Second is understand them. Understand them. How are they doing it? What are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Right? Who are the people leading that business? What are their ideologies? What are the things they are doing extra than you? What are the things that you have better than them? What are the things they have better than you? You understand the competitors, right? The third one is you determine their strengths, right? First you understand and then you segregate. All right, this is something that they have better. This is something that someone else has better, right? So you determine the competitor's strength. Then, if you know the strength, you would also know their weaknesses, right? If you know the strength, you will also get to know their weaknesses. Now, when you know the weakness, you know the strength, you can analyze that what is something that we can do better, right? And then you put all the information together. You put all the information together and analyze, right? You identify who are the competitors, you understand them. What are they? What do they do? Who are the leaders? Who are managing them? How are they managing it? How old is it? How much money do they have? What is the market response to their products? Then you determine their strengths. You see what are their strengths. Then you see what are their weaknesses, right? And then you put all the information together. You put all the information together and then you analyze, right? These are the steps that are involved in winning over a competitive landscape, to identify who all are the competition, what is better in them, what is weak in them, and then putting all the information together and studying, right? Let us take a small example. Let us take a small example. Now, Mr. E early on identified that Blue Origin is a competitor, right? So Mr. E is a businessman who found out another company which is their competitor. They're competing, right? So what he did, cited intent of Mr. B for spacefaring missions and auxiliary services. That Blue Origin was into these businesses just like Mr. B, into space exploration, into missions and auxiliary supporting services of space exploration, right? Now, he knew that vast sums of money were available, right? In turn, he started new companies to fund his business. Now, he knew Mr. B of Blue Origin had a lot of money. The strength of Mr. B was he had a lot of money, right? He identified the competition. He understood the competition, that they're also into space exploration. What are their strengths? That they have a lot of money, right? But what is the weakness? He also knew that they lacked technical knowledge. They had a lot of money. His competition had a lot of money, but they lacked technical knowledge to develop reusable rockets. They were spending a lot of money on rockets, but that was not renewable. So he knew that they lacked technology. What he did, he successfully tested reusable rockets before his competition, right? Before his competition, to show cost effectiveness and viability. And he won business before. He gained more customers, he gained more contracts before competition. Identified the competitor, understood the competitor, he determined, find out what are their strengths, found out what are their weaknesses, and then put all the information together and worked on his business and product to win more customers than the competition. All right? Super simple, super simple. Identify, understand, find strengths, find weaknesses, put all information together, and make your decisions into actions and win the competition. Right? Okay. Competitive landscape is more like a common area with all the competitors in the landscape. Yes, yes, that is right. Amazon Pay is capital that is rich to invest money. Absolutely yes. If the strength is they have a lot of money, the strength of most of the startups is that they have a lot of money to spend, and that is why they're able to market their products so well, right? That is one of the major things that happens. Okay, right? Any questions so far on this? Any questions so far on this? That is right. That is right, Aditya. Aditya, you're right. We're talking about two US big businesses of US. That is right. Any questions from the concept? Any questions from this concept of competitive landscape, competitive strategy? How do you identify? Right? Perfect. If it's clear, then I'm happy that it's clear. Let us jump into a quick question with a timer. Read the question quickly and answer. The timer is there. You have to be quick in reading the question. Quick, you have to answer as well. You have to answer as well. Yes, Chetan, I'm getting your questions. I think you're giving statements. Yeah. I don't see answers as yet. Hope everyone is answering. Easy questions. Unless you answer, you will not get the concept. Shrishti, we're talking about all the competitions, direct, indirect. We'll talk about that as well, but we are talking about every type of competition. Another 5 seconds, and then we'll reveal the answer. Okay, so which is achieved advantage over rivals when a company's profitability is greater than average profitability of firms in its industry? It's called competitive advantage. Why? Why? Tell me why. See, value creation is something else. Value creation is something different. We will study about it, right? It is not just about profitability. Value creation is not just about profitability. It includes a lot of other things as well. But when you talk about profitability is greater than the average profitability of firms, right? So what happens is you're creating a competitive advantage. How? How? right? Because you have an advantage in terms of which is unique and valued, right? It is unique and it is valued. That is why you're more profitable, right? You will achieve competitive advantage when you have achieved more profitability, right? It is a state. I would say it is more like a result oriented question wherein we're talking about that what happens when the profitability is more than the average profitability. That means you have a competitive advantage. You can win over competition because you have more profitability, and you can give out discounts. You can use that more profit to give out discounts to customers, which will be valued, right? So a competitive advantage is created, right? Okay. Now the question is, we're talking about strategy, we're talking about strategic management, we're talking about competitive strategy, wherein we're talking about future. Identify, analyze, find out what they're doing, find out what they can do, find out what they have done, what is good, what is bad in them. Is it a speculative activity? What is speculative? Speculative in terms of, if we talk in Hindi, it's satta, right? Is it risky? Is it you're making guesses? Is speculative means, are you making a guess, or is it a very analytical and very intelligent activity? Is it a guesswork or is it an intelligent activity? Let us understand. Strategy formulation is not a task which managers can get by with intuition, opinions, instincts, and creative thinking, right? Now sitting and watching a cricket match, you sit down and say, all right, today Virat Kohli will score 100, right? Probably he might, because he's one of the greatest players. He has his history of records has been that he plays well. He scores good runs on a particular field, on a particular pitch. There could be a lot of analysis, right? But it also includes intuitions, opinions, instincts, and creativity, right? Similarly, strategy is not just intuition. Like tomorrow, I say like, all right, this business will be booming. I will sit down and think, I had a dream that tomorrow a lot of people will start buying my food, right? If I have a food joint, if I have a food company, I cannot just sit down and think tomorrow people will start buying a lot of food from me. Right? It is not just based on intuitions or opinions or instincts or creative thinking. It involves a lot of analysis, right? Judgments about what strategies to pursue need to flow directly from analysis. You have to analyze a lot of things. Like we discussed, you have to analyze your competition, you have to analyze yourself. That is what strategy is all about. It is not just creative thinking, intuition, instincts, your guesswork, right? It involves a lot of analysis of a firm's external environment, and its internal resources and capabilities, right? Of a firm's external environment, the competition, the government, the environment, the economy, and its internal resources and capabilities. In foundation, we studied everything in detail, right? External environment, internal environment, we have studied in depth, right? Similarly, when you're making strategy, you have to analyze the external environment and the internal environment, right? That is what happens when you have to formulate strategy. Great. Now, what are the two most important situational considerations that you have to take care of? Right? You have to be always aware what others are doing. What is your competition doing? What are people doing in the market? What are other companies doing? What are other businesses doing? What is the industry doing? What is the competitive condition in the market? What are others doing? You have to always focus on what are others doing, so that you are relevant in the market, so that you know what is the trend in the market, right? And then you have to analyze what can your business or organization do. What can your business, your organization do? You have to analyze that as well. You see what others are doing, and then you analyze, all right, what is that I can do, right? So what you can do as an organization, also you have to understand and identify, right? Its own competitive capabilities. What are the resources? How much money do I have? How talented my people are in the company? Whether I need more people in the company who are more talented, or the people I have are talented and technologically adaptive enough, right? What are my internal strengths? What are my weaknesses? What is the market position I have? Am I famous in the market? Do people like my products? Or do I or have to do spend a lot of money on marketing so that people are aware of my business? You have to analyze yourself, and you also have to see what others are doing, right? Everything is boiling down to that initial, that you have to analyze yourself and you have to analyze your competition and others, right? What others are doing and what your organization can do, right? That is what strategic analysis is all about. It is not speculative, it is not guesswork, it is an analysis of what others are doing, analysis of what we can do or you as a business can do, right? Okay, great. Sure, Chetna. I think if you put in questions, we'll be able to answer better, right? Absolutely, Shristi. You have advantage in terms of goodwill from the previous question, right? Absolutely. The brand story is superior. That's a great word. I'm happy you are using words like brand story, right? Mm, absolutely. Yes, because you have studied the overall strengths of the rival company. Yes, Vanshika, that is right. Right, Namrata is on the same line. Ram Krishna is on the same line where he has given, like, because when we are doing the competition are doing, the profit is divided. Absolutely, yes, yes, absolutely, you're right. Yes, Sanjay is giving a good example. He's saying that like Apple products are sold for much higher prices than competitors, thus earning above average profits, resulting in competitive advantage. Wonderful example, Sanjay. Wonderful example. Apple products, right? The profitability of Apple is much higher because that is creating a competitive advantage for them. Right? That is creating a competitive advantage for them. Wonderful. Okay, now, we studied about it is not a speculative activity. Competitive strategy is not a speculative activity. It is not guesswork. You're analyzing things. You're analyzing your competition. You're analyzing yourself. Now, what are the twin factors? What are the twin factors, right? You have to consider when you're doing the analysis, right? We talked about you have to do analysis, but what do you have to consider when you are doing the analysis? All right, two major factors. Number one, you have to understand that strategy evolves over a period of time. Strategy evolves over a period of time. It is not just over a day, over a night, over weeks, over months. Right? Oh, it's a long process. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Right? It evolves over a period of time. You keep doing things. You keep doing things. You keep changing. Remember chapter one. You evaluate and take corrective actions. It is never ending process. Strategic management is never ending process. Similarly, any kind of strategy, and the strategy we are studying today is competitive strategy. It is also strategy, right? So a strategy is a never ending process. Strategy of a firm is a result of small decisions taken over an extended period of time. Every single day you're taking small decisions, right? Probably if you are today sitting at an intermediate, like you're taking intermediate classes, your small decisions have led you till here, right? This is what I in class 10th, you decided to take commerce, right? That was one decision, right? A big decision, but it's falling into place. Your end result is falling into your decisions at early on. It's a long process. Then in 11th, you scored well. In 12th, you scored well. You decided to go to a college, or you did not decide to go to a full-time college. You started your chartered accountancy. You studied for your foundation. You cleared your foundation. You focused. You took decisions. This is how I'll prepare. This is what I'll prepare. This is how I'll solve exams. This is whose guidance I'll take. Right? This is who I get inspired from. Small decisions over a period of time have has led you till here, right? And this is what your strategy is. This is what your strategy of your career, this is what the strategy of your life is. Similarly for businesses, it evolves over a period of time. It evolves from experience and needs constant review and revision, right? Constant review, constant revision. You find out, all right, I don't like maths. Let me just drop maths and take commerce with arts, or commerce with economics or something, right? Small decisions. Then you come to college. I don't like this particular subject. Let me not study. Focus more on this. I'll focus on something that I like more. Small, constant review, constant revision, right? Considering the possibility of implications. While you consider the possibility of implications also. That means, let us suppose you decided, I don't like maths, let me not take maths. But then you realize your options after the school might become less, because a lot of colleges require maths as a mandatory. A lot of courses require maths as a mandatory subject. You consider the possibility of implications, like what would happen if you take that decision on a daily basis. So all these small decisions with your implications in the mind, what could happen, result in, over an extended period of time, become your strategy, right? That was number one. Number two is external and internal factors. Now, if I tell you there are external factors, you might not have enough money to go abroad to study, right? That can be one external, internal factor. There could be something, you got a scholarship, external factor. You were lucky enough, you're smart enough, you were intelligent enough, you were competent enough. You got a scholarship to go and study in the United States. External factors, internal factors that can change your strategy for life, right? There has to be a balance. You have to understand those. You have to be aware of those, right? It involves matching your internal potential with the external environment, right? Your internal potential, what you want to do you have the potential to bag that scholarship? You go and find out scholarships and you work towards it. You match your internal skills, your internal potential with external environment. Similarly, businesses see what I'm good at, what the external forces, what the government is providing. I'll give you again an example. Let us suppose your state government, let us take example of Orissa. Okay, in Orissa, the state government says that they will need 2 lakh e-rickshaws that will run in all the major cities of Orissa, right? Now, you as a businessman, you know that I can make around 10,000 rickshaws in 1 month. Let me go. There's an external factor. There is an opportunity in external environment, and you know your internal strength. You go and bag that opportunity. You go and get that opportunity. That is what is we're talking about, balance of external internal factors while implementing a competitive strategy. While implementing a competitive strategy, right? It is small decisions over a period of time while making a balance between your internal and external environment, right? Great. Question from Chetan is, isn't the strategy developed at the very inception and only execution modified over the period? Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. There is a basic strategy, right? Like there is a basic strategy which keeps revising, That is right. There's a basic strategy that keeps revising. Right. I think it's clear up till now. We'll take 30 seconds if there are any questions, any doubts, anything that you think is not clear. Anything that you think is not clear, happy to resolve that. I see a few questions. If everything is clear, I would want you to just write it down, because that gives me confidence that everything is clear. There are no doubts. Otherwise, I'll revise that. Great. Thanks, Ishita, for saying that everything is clear. I hope it's clear to everyone else as well. Perfect. All right, Namrata, it's simple. The second factor is nothing but identifying what you are good at and what are the opportunities outside, right? You know you're good at, let's say, drawing, you're good at art, and you find out there's a competition in some like university or an online competition, and you go and apply and win that competition. It's about matching the internal potential with the external environment opportunities, right? It is about matching that. It is about finding what you're good at and then finding the opportunities outside where you can go and work and win, right? Right. So this is what we were talking about. This is what we were talking about. Okay, let us quickly. There's a question. Quick, there's a question. Let us solve that. And the timer is on. Read the question carefully. Great. I see answers. Happy to see answers. Happy that people are answering and interacting. This is what I want. This is what I want. The more you interact in classes, the better it is for you. Right. The correct answer is all of the above. That is right. That is right. Now you know. Now all of you gave the right answer. All of you gave the right answer. Right. Right. That is where the clarity of concept is. Wonderful. Good to see the right answers. Right. Okay. Let us quickly jump into understanding how do you mitigate strategic risk. What is strategic risk, right? How do you mitigate it? That means how do you reduce it? How do you ensure that you reduce your strategic risk, right? How does that happen? Okay. Now, first of all, let us understand what is strategic risk. We were talking about strategy. We were talking about what strategy is, right? Now, there are two types of strategic risk. There is external risk and there is internal risk. There is external strategic risk and there is internal strategic risk. Okay. The strategic risk is of two types, external and internal, right? And further, it is short time and long time. Let us understand first. Okay. The external strategic risk is that there are errors in interpreting the environment, right, which causes strategic failure. Right? When there are errors in interpreting the environment caused by strategic failure. What does this mean? There's an external strategic risk in the short time is you interpret the environment wrong, right? We were talking about who are your competition, what are the different competitors you have, who all are your competitors, what are they doing? If you interpret that wrong, right? If you do not analyze that right, that is your risk. There is a risk that you do not analyze, the competition correctly. That is external strategic risk in the short term. What is internal strategic risk in the short term? That the organization capacity is unable to cope up with the strategic demands. That means if I tell you today, I will study for 100 hours in this week, right? And I know I cannot study for more than 2 hours in a day, I will not be able to cope up with my strategy. I made an impractical strategy. The internal strategic risk. There is a risk in strategy. You create a strategy, you develop a strategy for yourself, but there is a risk that that strategy is a flop. That strategy will fail. There is a risk, right? And that risk is of two types: external and internal. There could be an external risk that you analyze your environment wrong, that you are not able to interpret your environment correctly. And there can be an internal risk that you make impractical strategies that you cannot even fulfill, right? You overshoot your expectations. That is a risk in strategy, right? Because you have to be smart enough. And for that, what you would do? You would analyze, right? That is why you take corrective actions. Because there is risk, that is why you take corrective actions, right? Everything falls into picture when you start making sense of those 4 5 steps, right? There is a risk. You could be wrong, right? Not everyone can be right. Not every the smartest people can be wrong because there's a lot of external factors. There is environment. Things can change overnight, right? So the external risk is you interpreted the environment wrong. The internal risk is you make impractical strategy that you cannot fulfill yourself. In the long term, the external risk is in the long term, the external risk is that the environment changes altogether, that the environment in which you work changes altogether. Now, I'll give you an example. Let us suppose in 1980 or 1970s, you start an oil company, right? Oil was booming, India was developing, there was a lot of railways, and new cars were coming into India. There was a lot of need for petroleum, right? So you start your oil company. Now, in the short term, you might be good, but in the long term, if you do not analyze, the environment is changing. There is a risk to the strategy. The strategy of 1980s and 1970s of starting an oil company is at risk because now there is global warming. Now there is climate change. Now a lot of people are concerned about climate change. So there is change in the environment. Now their strategy might flop. Your strategy might fail, right? There is a risk. That is why you keep changing your strategy. The internal risk in the long term is that inconsistencies with the strategy are developed account for change in internal capacity and preferences. Your internal strengths change, right? You were when you were a kid. I think I can give you this example. When you were a kid, you were very flexible, right? Probably most of the kids are very flexible. So your parents say that, all right, let us put them in yoga, and you are really good at yoga. You win a lot of competitions in yoga because you're flexible. But your internal capacities, your internal strength changes over time, but you're not able to analyze that, right? When you're 20 years old, you still feel that I was able to do good yoga when I was 7 years old because I'm very flexible. But by 20, even if you do one asana, your back breaks or your leg breaks, right? That is a risk in your strategy that you're still not analyzing how your internal capacities have changed, right? So your internal capacity, internal strategy, internal strengths keep changing. You have to analyze that. And that is one risk in strategy, that if you do not analyze or if you're not able to identify, your strategy will be a big flop, right? So strategic risk is of two types, external and internal. In the short term, the external risk is that you're not able to analyze the environment. In the long term, the external risk is that the environment only changes. Strategic risk in the internal way, in internal short time, is that the capacity, you make your strategy very impractical, which you cannot follow yourself. In the long term, the internal strategic risk is that you're not able to analyze your strengths that keep changing over time. In the long term, you're not able to analyze what you are now good at, right? So that is also a risk when you're making your strategy. That is what strategic risk is all about. How do you mitigate this? How do you reduce this risk? You analyze more. You understand yourself more. You analyze a lot of things. You sit down, you think through, then you evaluate and you take corrective actions, right? This is what strategic risk is all about. Great. Any doubts on this topic? Any doubts on this topic? Any doubts on this? Absolutely. Abhishek has a good example that telecom industry, right? Strategies keep changing once Jio came, Vodafone is out of business. Airtel has been able to compete well, right? So this is how strategies keep changing. I see a few questions. Any doubts? If there are no doubts, please do write. It's clear, right? Cope up means to be able to match up, to be able to at least be same at the same level is cope up, right? Okay, so Chetna has a question that's not able to identify between short term and long term. So it's simple. In the short term is your quick decisions, right? If you can think about short term and long term decisions that you're taking now, and long term is decisions that are going to affect you over a longer period of time, right? Now, for example, if I tell you what do you want to eat for dinner, that's a short time. That's a short time decision that you're taking. If I ask you what do you want to become in life, right? That's a long time, that's a longer duration decision. Right? Similarly, the strategy has two aspects. There is a long-term strategy and a short-term. So you have different risks associated with those kinds of decisions that you're taking for strategy. Short-term decisions and long-term decisions. Wonderful, Nakul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great to see, no doubts. Okay, cope up, I've answered. Example, short time external factors. Similarly, let us suppose you think that like, what if I say Uber thinks that Amazon is their competitor, right? Because they think that Amazon is going to start their cab services. So they start exploring the idea of starting their own e-commerce business, right? Now, let us suppose you are CEO of Uber and you start thinking, what if Amazon starts their cab services? Let us also start an e-commerce website called Uber XYZ, right? Now, this is you're interpreting the environment wrong. The Amazon is not deciding, but you are analyzing, you are thinking, what if they do? What if they come into cab? Let us go into e-commerce, right? Now, this is a short-term risk that might be there. And this can be a huge devastating decision for your company, right? Uber can become zero with such a decision. So that is a risk in strategy. Risks can be controllable, uncontrollable, anything. Really depends on your strengths and the external environment, right? Yeah, I think all the PPTs are already shared. You will find this exact PPT. I've uploaded it. Chapter 1 PPT also I'll upload. And probably over the weekend, I will also upload MCQs for chapter 1 and 2 together, like some MCQs for your practice. We will do that. I'll share that as well, right? So you will find that in the download section, right, for SM specifically, right? Okay. Before we jump into the next one, any doubts? I think everything is clear, right? Great, great. How can we mitigate risk related to time management? I think that really depends. No, I think I am very poor at time management, so I'm not the right person to answer that. I waste a lot of time. So I think someone who is good at time management can answer that better because I have never been able to manage my time well. But I think once you find out what you have to do, once you're focused, like time management is just a subset of you being focused enough, right? Someone can study something in 1 hour, someone can take 3 hours for the same thing. So it really depends how you study or how well you understand a concept, right? Now this slide is quite heavy, right? So probably you can actually refer your books there or study material there. because I tried to concise it, but there's a lot of things in there, right? So what is the framework of strategic analysis? What is the framework? Like how is it, how does it look, right? What is the framework of strategic analysis? When I say framework, framework is nothing but how does something look like, right? How is something, how something like, for example, if I can give you framework in terms of how, what is the framework of Indian government, right? There is president, there is prime minister, there are ministers under prime minister, that's called parliament. Then you have state governments, that are Vidhan Sabhas. Then you have state ministers. Then you have the chief minister, under him or her they have different ministers, and then they have different MLAs and like small panchayats. And this is how the framework of Indian legislature looks, right? Or Indian, what is the framework of Indian judiciary? There's a Supreme Court, there are high courts, then there are district courts, then there are different panchayats, then there are sarpanchs, right? So that is a framework. That is what a framework is. Now, what is the framework for strategic analysis? What is the framework for strategic analysis? Okay. Now, there can be external analysis and there can be internal analysis. Simple. We talked about two things. Everything will fall down to the basics. Always. How big you become, how even if you become the CEO of I say Apple, right? Everything will fall down to the basics. We are time and again studying that you have to do analysis. When you're making a competitive strategy, you're making a strategy, you have to analyze. What do you have to analyze? Yourself and the outside world. You have to analyze yourself and the outside world. When you analyze, there can be risk that you might not analyze well, you might analyze yourself wrong, things in the external might change, things within you might change, right? So these are the risks. Now, the framework of analysis, you have to analyze what? External analysis. Analyze outside. Internal analysis. Analyze yourself. Introspect, right? What am I good at? What I as a business am good at? Now, there are 4 categories of external analysis and there are 2 categories of internal analysis. In external analysis, what do? You analyze customers. Who are your customers? Who are you going to sell? Is it the kids? Is it old people? Is it rich people? Is it middle class? Is it poor people? Is it lower segment of your society? Is it higher segment of society? Is it the politicians you are going to sell your services to? Is it the big corporations you are going to sell your business to? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it C2C? Right? So this is what you analyze. You do the customer analysis. Who you want to sell your product to. You do a competitor. You do customer analysis. I will just change the color of the pen so that it becomes easier. Let me take green. Okay. You do a customer analysis, right? Who are the customers? Then you do a competitor analysis. You go and do a competitor analysis, right? Who my competition is, who are my competition, what do they do, what are their objectives, what is their performance, who is leading them, what is their mindset, what are their products, what are their services, what are they good at. You analyze your competition. The third thing in external analysis is market analysis, right? Whether the industry, whether the market, what I'm going to, what is the size of the market, what is the growth potential, what is the profitability, what are there any entry barriers, are there any exit barriers in the market, right? You analyze everything from there. What does this mean? Market analysis, size, growth, profitability, entry barriers. Now, market analysis, for example, I'll give examples for everything. Let us complete the 4th one also. Then we have environmental analysis, right? Then we have environmental analysis. What is the technology needed? What is the government doing in that segment? What are the economic, like everything we have studied in foundation, right? Economic, cultural, demographic. Right? These are the environmental analysis we have done in depth. This forms part of external analysis, right? Now, if I take example, let us suppose you start a business of toothpaste. Okay. Now you have a new innovation in toothpaste that toothpaste is actually very organic. It is made from pure plant leaves, and you have that business. Okay, you start selling that product. You do a customer analysis. You see who will buy that product. Only people who are concerned about the environment or who want organic products, the upper strata of the society who are more concerned about environment, who can spend more money for organic products, will only buy your product, right? So that is a customer analysis. Who will buy my product? Competitor analysis. You will see who else is doing that. You see that, okay, HUL is doing that. Okay, Patanjali is also doing that. Colgate is doing that. Palmolive is doing that. So you do a competitor analysis. Are they also selling online? Are they also selling in shops? Are they also selling in major 4 or 5 cities, or are they selling in every city? How are people reacting, right? Then they do a market analysis, like how many people would want organic toothpaste? Like, is there growth potential? If I start today, will I grow 10 times, 20 times, or will I not be able to grow in next 5 or 7 years? Right? What is the profitability? Are people going to spend more money for my product? Will I be profitable? Are there entry barriers? Will Patanjali, will Colgate let me enter this market segment, or they will create barriers, or they will create problems for me, right? So you do a market analysis, and then you do an environment analysis. What is the technology I will need to do this? What is the government? Is there any government incentive that I can get? Is there any help from government that I can get? Is there economic condition? Right? Probably when there was pandemic, people would not go for organic in terms of spending more for toothpaste. They will want to save money for the next 1 or 2 years. So the economic condition might not be favorable to your business. You have to analyze that. That is external analysis, right? Similarly, when you do internal analysis, you look at two things. You look at two things. Performance analysis. What is your profitability? What are the sales that you are expecting? How satisfied are the customers? What is your product quality? What is the relative cost of the competitor? For what cost are they selling? New products. What are the new products that I can introduce, or what people are introducing? What is the human resource, the talent team within my company? Is it sufficient for me to grow? Do an internal analysis of your performance. You do an internal analysis of your performance. Am I profitable? Are my sales growing? Are my customers satisfied? Is my quality okay? Right? And then you do a determinant analysis. What is determinant analysis? It is the past and current strategies, your strategic problems, your organizational capabilities and constraints. What are the challenges you are facing as a business is what you do an analysis of. What are the financial resources, your strengths and weaknesses? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough money to spend more? Are people paying, right? Are my creditors paying me? Are my debtors paying me? Am I able to pay my creditors, right? That is determinant analysis. Performance analysis. Am I performing well? Are my customers satisfied? Is my cost low? Am I able to reduce my cost, right? Determinant analysis. Past and present current strategies or strategic problems, organizational capabilities or strengths and weaknesses, right? Now, the external analysis boils down to opportunities and threats, right? Opportunities and threats, while your internal analysis boils down to your strengths and weaknesses, right? Remember SWOT analysis. This is opportunity and this is threat in external analysis, and this is strengths and weaknesses. In foundation, I covered this topic in depth, right? That SWOT analysis, your strength and weakness is internal analysis. Your opportunity and threat is your external analysis. 4 elements, 4 categories in external analysis, 2 categories in internal analysis, right? Now, what do I do once I have analyzed everything? What do I do once I have analyzed everything? I have analyzed that, okay, this is the competition. This is what I'm good at. What do I do now? What do I do now? Strategy identification and selection. You identify a strategy and you select a strategy that will be beneficial based on your analysis of external and internal analysis of your customer, of your competitor, of your market, of your environment, of your own performance, of your determinant, of the challenges, your weaknesses, right? You identify strategic alternatives. You also identify strategic alternatives. If not this, I will do this. If not this, I will do this. Everything, you're doing this thing every single day. If I'm not able to complete my syllabus in the next 2 hours, probably I'll do that. I'll wake up early in the morning and do it. Strategy alternative. If I'm not able to complete it tonight, I'll wake up early, I'll sleep less, and I'll complete it. Strategy alternative. Select a strategy. You make a final strategy. All right, I have to complete it by tonight, right? There's a base strategy, right? You implement the operating plan. You implement. How am I going to do that? I'm not going to watch TV. I'm going to study. You have a plan. There's an operating plan for the business, right? And then you review your strategies. You understand for of every night you decide I will complete it. For 1 week, you see that you are not able to study at nights and you're able to study more in the mornings. So you review your strategy and you decide, let us change my strategy and start studying in the morning, right? Similarly, is what businesses do. They analyze external, they analyze internal, and they make strategies and they review, keep changing, identify, make alternatives of the strategy, and they keep flourishing. Never ending process. They keep changing basis their analysis. They keep changing strategies basis their analysis, right? Okay. I know this slide is quite heavy in terms of content. So that is why I said you can refer your study materials for this. You can refer your study materials. You have more data in there, like more clarity in there. Probably it's difficult to put a lot of things in the PPT, right? But this is only helpful if it is in one slide. That is why I put it there, right? So external analysis and internal analysis. Two things in internal, four things in external: customer, competitor, market and environment analysis, performance analysis, determinant analysis, that is your weaknesses. You find out opportunities and threats from your external analysis, and you find out your strengths and weakness from internal analysis, and then you implement your strategy and you keep revising it basis your analysis. And that is your framework. That is your framework of strategic analysis. This is how the framework is. You do these analysis and you implement a strategy. That is the framework of strategic analysis, right? Any questions on this concept? Any doubts on this? We'll take that up. Any questions, any doubts? I think yes, Zoom, that is why I'm saying probably you can refer study material. Strategic analysis is about asking the right questions and trying to find the answers to them. Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Right, Manish, economic conditions, we can see like demand less elastic or high elastic. That is right. That is right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Great. I see people writing everything is clear. Thank you so much. I would want everyone to write down that it's clear. There are no doubts. Probably that gives me confidence that we can move on, right? Because I would want to clear all the doubts and questions, because this is one area we can interact and talk right live, right? Otherwise it's difficult to answer your questions from any other mode. Great. Okay, there's a question. Some person or company are able to cope up change in external factors. What among them is majorly seen by from your side? Karthik, I did not get the question. Like, I do not understand this question. It says, some person or company are able to cope up change in external factors. Okay. What among them is majorly seen by from your side? If you can just rephrase the question, Karthik, I can answer that then. Right? Then I think the concepts are clear. The idea is clear, right? If you want any examples, I can give those examples. Data is a great tool. Like Congratulations on that offer. Great to see that. Great. Okay. So once the framework is clear, we understand what is strategic management, what is competitive strategy, how do you analyze it, what do you mean by strategic risk. Now let us dive into understanding the methods, right? We talked about you have to do analysis. You have to do analysis of what? You have to do analysis of external factors. You have to do analysis of internal things, and then you implement the strategy. But how do you analyze? How do you analyze? That is the question. That is where the real brainstorming is. I know I have to analyze customers. I know I have to analyze competition. I have to analyze environment. I have to analyze myself, my weaknesses, my strengths. How? The question is, how will I do that? So there are certain methods. There are certain methods that we can use to analyze, right? We will discuss that. The first one is dominant economic feature of the industry, right? The dominant economic feature of the industry. Now, the industry you're getting into, you have to analyze the industry, the market, right? So what do? You find out the dominant economic features, right? We'll discuss on this. Keep it on par. We'll discuss this, what are dominant economic features. The second is the nature and strength of your competition. Simple. Who are your competition? How powerful they are. Triggers of change. Triggers of change, right? Are there any triggers of change? Is the industry, is the market changing? Are things changing in the market? Are consumers finding something else? Right? For example, you will see a lot of young boys and girls consuming protein, like powder whey protein nowadays. Earlier, it was not there. Right? In last 10, 15 years, 10 years is also more. 5, 7 years before this, there was no concept of whey protein for the general public. Right? But now you would see everyone, even in your house, you will see your siblings or you yourself might be consuming whey protein. Right? There's a triggers of change. Things in the society change, things in the businesses change. Right? So you have to analyze that. That is one of the methods that you identify changes. You always study changes. That is one method, right? To identify the strongest and the weakest companies, right? That is called strategic group mapping. What is it called? Strategic group mapping. To identify the strongest and the weakest companies. But all right, I'm getting into business. There are 10 companies doing the same thing. Top 2, bottom 2, right? I identify top 2 and bottom 2, and then I identify, all right, now these bottom 2 is something I can compete and easily buy, right? Probably if I grow enough, I will go and buy those companies and expand. The top 2 companies I have to be aware of, they can buy me, they can push me out of the market, right? So you identify, that is one of the methods of analysis. You group companies. The method of analysis is you start grouping those companies as weakest, strongest, mediocre, A company, B company, C companies, right? You study the likely strategic moves of rivals. You start studying what are rivals doing. You find out what are other competition people are doing. What are they doing? You study newspapers. You sit down with people who are studying businesses. You identify what are the likely strategy moves of rivals. Right? What are this like? For example, Flipkart had big billion sale, and Amazon started their great independence sale. Right? So this strategic move of the rival, Amazon saw that Flipkart is doing big billion sale and it's very successful. So they also strategized that let us go and do a great independence sale, and that was also a success. So you see the strategic moves of rivals, you learn and then implement. That is also a method of analysis. Key factors of competitive success, KSFs, right? The key factors for competitive success, the 3 magic questions for success. We will study this. We will study this in depth, right? This is just a brief of those methods. And the 7th one is prospects and financial attractiveness of the industry. Is that industry even attractive? Are people even spending money in that industry? Are the products even sellable? Right? What are the prospects and financial attractiveness of that industry? That is one of the methods of analyzing the business, analyzing the market, right? That you see how financially attractive, whether I'll make profits or not, right? So 7 things: dominant economic features of the industry, strength of your competitors, triggers of change. Are things changing in the environment? And can I take advantage of those changes? Then identifying, right? Identifying the strongest and the weakness and the weakest companies, right? Likely strategic moves of rivals, key factors of success. The 3 questions, we'll discuss this right now. And prospects and financial attractiveness of the industry, right? Okay, dominant economic features. You see in front of this, it's been profiling firms based on various economic factors, right? Profiling firms based on various economic factors means you understand, right? That, all right, companies in this industry are very successful. Companies in this industry are not very successful. Majority of firms who are working in edtech, I'll give you an example, okay? Now, majority of firms which are working in edtech like Byju's, Vedantu, you have this Unacademy, right? Majority of firms, or you have this thing called university or something, right? A lot of companies or Chegg or anything. Now these firms are majorly are profitable. They are making great money. They are growing like anything. Even if they're not profitable now, they're growing like anything. So you profile that this particular industry, I see a lot of potential, and the dominant economic features are that they are profitable, in the future, right? FMCG companies, you will see a lot of companies in FMCG, that is soaps, your food, your soups, soaps, shampoos, creams, like different consumer products, right? They're quite profitable. There's a lot of good margin there, right? So you profile firms based on the economic factors of the industry. That edtech industry is successful, is profitable, let us get into edtech, or FMCG is profitable, let us get into FMCG, right? Nature and strength of competitors. It is simple. You discover, identify the main sources of competition and how strong they are, right? Triggers of change. I told you triggers of change. Identifying driving forces or trends. Identifying trends. Like I told you, people consuming a lot of whey protein, people becoming fitness freaks or fitness conscious. So a lot of products related to fitness start selling more, like products like Mama Earth, or you see products of natural organic oils. They're selling like anything online, right? Because people are concerned about their hair, people are concerned about the skin, so they're spending 400 500 rupees for small creams, right? That's a trend. You analyze that trend and you make a strategy for your business. Identifying or grouping your businesses, like we told, like strong companies, medium risk, medium competition, and weak competition, right? Strategic moves of rivals, simple English, right? You gather information, what are people doing, what are other businesses doing. This is important. What are the key factors of success, right? The 3 magic questions for success. The 3 magic questions for success. What product attributes are crucial for sales, right? Now, these 3 questions a company or a business has to understand. First is, what product attributes are crucial to sales? What are essential competitive capabilities, and how to sustain competitive advantage? Okay, let us take example of Apple. Where what are the product attributes crucial to sales? Quality. Apple ensures that every product they sell is of top-notch quality, right? So the attribute, the characteristic of the product crucial for the sale is the quality of the product, right? It's the quality of the product. What are essential competitive capabilities, right? Now you have to understand, to ensure what is crucial to sale, what is so important that the customer is valuing. How do you ensure that, right? Through great design, through great talent, by hiring the best and the smartest people in the world, you can ensure that. Apple is ensuring that, right? So that is essential. What is essential for competitive capabilities? Good amount of money, good amount of funds, good amount of talent in the organization. That is crucial and essential for competitive capability, how to sustain this advantage. How do you sustain? Means you keep on holding to that competitive advantage. You do not lose it out, right? How do you do that? Now, these are the three key questions you have to understand when you're analyzing a strategy. What is crucial to the customer? How do I ensure that? And how long can I ensure that? What is crucial to the customer? What is something that the customer values the most? How do I ensure that? And how do I ensure that for a long period of time? Three key questions, right? And then we have financial attractiveness, whether I'll make profit or not. Simple. At the end of the day, it's dhanda, right? Dhande mein, if you do not have profit, there is no use of doing dhanda, right? So financial attractiveness of the industry, is it profitable or not, right? Okay. Any question? I see questions, right? Yes, Kati, your questions. What type of major characteristics they adopt that time? There can be a lot of strategies, Kati, right? If you're interested in reading about it, I would say go to Google and write down competitive top 10 or top 5 competitive strategies. You will find great case studies. You will see that a lot of companies are doing a lot of good strategies. For example, I'll give you an example like Red Bull. Like Red Bull is spending a lot of money in sports, adventure sports. You will see Red Bull in parachutes, like people who are flying in big hot air balloons or doing paragliding. Red Bull is always there to sponsor that, right? So that is their strategy. Okay, all these methods are more subjective than objective, right? Absolutely. It really depends on what kind of business you are in, it how big a business you are. If I say I'm a small shopkeeper in, say, Kanpur, right? I have a very small shop with only the stock I have is of 10 lakh rupees. There is no point of doing such deep analysis of industry or triggers of change. I would just see whether is it profitable or not. I will just see whether is it profitable or not, right? So it really depends on what kind of business and what size of business you are. So it is subjective more than objective, right? Right. Benchmarking we'll study separately. That's a different concept. We'll study on that comment. Got it. New trend of applying coffee to end its game. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Coal, coffee, papaya, yeah, your milk, your dahi, your eggs, right? People are applying everything on this game. So that's a trend. Figures of change, Karthik, we are just discussing. The trends are changing, right? I'll give you very, very recent and relevant example. Now, a lot of people are buying that circular ring to make your Instagram reels and TikTok, right? Those circular rings you would see a lot of people are buying. So there's a trend. So a lot of small traders are buying that product and selling that product for 200, 300 rupees, which cost only 50 rupees. So they are identifying the trend. A lot of people are buying that circular light. There is a trend. There's an opportunity. They're going and minting money. That is triggers of change. Something is changing in the environment. There is a new trend in the environment, and you go for that. Absolutely. Triggers of change is eco-friendly idols like in Ganesh Chaturthi, which is right. It is right. I think next week only you will have Ganesh Chaturthi. So eco-friendly Ganeshas, eco-friendly idols. That is how the trends are changing. That is triggers of change. That is right, Priyanka. Great example there. Is this concept clear? The methods, the 7 methods of how do you analyze the different things that we discussed about. Any questions so far? Any doubts so far? Happy to take up. Any doubts? Any questions? Great. Good to see. Yes, Namrata, that is a great example. Perfect. We will take a break in next 5-7 minutes, please. Right. Before that, you have a question on the screen. I will want every one of you to answer. Just Priya, for that answer, any one or multiple methods can be used. It is not important that you use all the methods. Any of those methods can be used. Palibi, if you have in the exam to write these, I think you can write answers in your language. However, try to keep the headings same. Right? Try to keep the headings same. However, the content inside the heading can be your personal language, but as far as I know, you should keep the heading same. That gives confidence to the examiner that you know the concept. Right, the timer's up. So let us see who all have answered. Okay, I see answers. I see answers. Good to see answers. Okay. A dash for a firm is whatever it does best. A dash for a firm is whatever it does best. Is it a core competency? Is it a driving force? Is it a key success factor? Or is it concurrent filters? Right? A dash for a firm is whatever it does best. The correct answer is key success factors. Why? 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 It is not core competency. It is key success factors. Why? Because from the example of Apple, from the example of Apple, right? From the example of Apple. So these are the key factors for competitive success, is what we are talking about, right? Great. So these are the key success factors because from the example of Apple, you will know that what is crucial for this is how do I do that? And how do I sustain that? How do I keep doing that? Right? Can we take a break for 10 minutes and you guys can probably get something to eat, drink water or drink, and we should be back much before 10 minutes. Like 7-8 minutes, we will be back. Is that fine with you all? A quick break to get something to eat or drink, right? Okay, thanks. All right, the break is over. So I would want you guys to be back and focus back on your screens, just like KBC. Focus on your screens. Great. Okay, I have two questions. We'll take that up quickly. Mobilization will come under business policy definition. Right. So probably, Manish, the answer to your question will lie in the definition, right? Business policy is a broad thought process. It's quite broad. It's very broad. While business strategy is a segmented part of business policy. Like I gave you an example that I want to eat something sweet is business policy, while I want to eat ice cream from quality walls is something like strategy, right? How I want to eat, how will I get this money, how will I walk, which shop will I go to, that is strategy. But I want to eat something sweet tonight is a business policy. So broader, and then you have something within that policy as a strategy, right? So I hope that will answer your doubt on this. Great. What is meant by competitive advantage being sustainable? Right, Shrishti. So that means your competitive advantage has to be sustainable in terms of that you keep on ensuring that you're good at it, right? It shouldn't be just a one-time thing for you. It should be a constant thing that you're good at. That is what competitive advantage being sustainable means. That you, Apple for the last 15 years is producing one of the top quality products. They're sustainable. They're constantly number one in quality. So that is just an example. That is how it is. Like Tata, brand image of Tata companies is constant, it's sustainable. Over the last 100 years, they are one of the most trusted brands in India, right? So that is sustainable for a long period of time, not just 1 year or 2 years. For a very long period, you keep maintaining that advantage. Okay, so we did this answer. Quickly back on the screens with the question. Simple question on the screen. Very simple question on the screen. Which is not an example of driving forces. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think is not, is not an example of driving force? I see answers. Good to see answers. Good to see answers. Everyone should be back on the screens. I don't see many answers. Have people just gone for a long break? What about others? I see 5, 6 people answering. What about others? Arihant is there, Mansha is there, Nakul, Priyanka has given, Krushi, Manish has given, Sahil has given. What about others? What about others? Okay, Chetna has given, Narayanan has given, Namrata has given. Good, good. The correct answer is none of these. None of these. Why? Why? None of these. Why? Which is not an example of driving forces, right? Increased globalization, product innovation, changes in cost and efficiency. None of these are driving forces. None of these are trends. These are external environment analysis. Driving forces are something like trend, right? These are the driving forces, which are triggers of change. So none of these are trends. This is something that is happening in the environment, which is not a trend, which is more like what if I say, for example, the latest example, the Taliban like uproar in Afghanistan. Is that a driving force? Is that a trend? No, it is something that is happening in the environment. That is something that's a geopolitical change. It is not a trend. It is not a trend or a driving force, right? It is just change in it's a geopolitical change in the world, right? Right. Great. Let us go to core competencies. Let us go to core competencies. We were talking about what are the core competencies. Combination of capabilities linked to competitive advantage, right? Simple definition of core competencies is combination of capabilities linked to competitive advantage. Combination of capabilities, combination of capabilities linked to competitive advantage is called core competency. Core is means the most important center, right? Competency is something you are good at. Now it is a combination of capabilities linked to competitive advantage. What are your capabilities? What are your strengths which are giving you competitive advantage, right? The combination of those give you core competency, right? Now there are three major areas where you can have core competencies, right? Competitive differentiation, right? You can consider, a company can consider having a core competency if it has the following. If a company has any of these or all of these, a company can consider having core competency if it has competitive differentiation. That means the competence is unique and it is difficult for competitors to imitate. If something you have, no one other, or it's very difficult for others to copy that. If it is very difficult for others to copy that, it becomes your core competency. It is difficult for others to copy you, that becomes your core competency. Customer value. Customer value. When the service or product that you're providing to the customer gives a real impact, that the customer is so bewildered, that the customer is so happy with your product or service, that there is a real impact, and the reason that the customer chooses to purchase from you again and again, right? Because it brings about social worth, smooth functioning, or best in the industry quality, right? So, for example, for most of the boys out there, or even girls, if I tell you that you get to buy Nike sneakers, right? The Nike shoes, right? There is real impact, even if it's costly, even if it's very costly, 7,000-8,000 for a pair of shoes. That's very costly. However, if you buy those, if you're able to buy those, you feel proud of yourself, right? You feel that I have accomplished something. This particular product, this particular product is bringing something, bringing a real impact, right? So a service or product that has a real impact. Now for that, because Nike is able to give you a real impact through their product, that becomes a core competency for them. That is something that Nike product is giving you a real impact in terms of social work. You feel proud that, okay, I'm doing good in my life. People are valuing me because I'm successful, right? Or something that is best in the industry in terms of quality. You're getting the best thing, right? You go to one of your favorite restaurants and you find the food very tasty and you're wanting to spend money for that. Real impact. That is their core competency. That is the restaurant's core competency. Third, application to other markets. Applicable to the whole organization to open up potential markets to be exploited, right? Like the new M1 chips are better than Intel. That means if you make something, if you produce or innovate something that can be used by your competitors also. What if you make something that can be used by your competitors also, right? What if your products become the input or purchase of your competitors, right? That will become your core competency. That will become your core competency, right? So competitive differentiation, businesses are not able to copy you. That becomes your core competency. There is a real impact. People value your product or service so much that they're wanting to spend their money again and again. That is, customer value is your core competency. Something you innovate or develop that can be used by everyone in the industry, even your competitors, that becomes your core competency. Something that is only very important and crucial to you, and only you have that, is your core competency, right? That is your core competency. Competitive differentiation, people cannot copy you. Customer value, people feel pride and happy and wanting to spend again and again on your products and services because there is real impact and application to other markets, other businesses, other people in the industry, or even your competitors are able to use your products and services, right? That is what core competency is all about. Any questions on that? Any questions on core competency? Any questions on core competency? Coca-Cola's secret formula is core competency. It's core competency. People are not able to imitate it, right? People are not able to imitate it. It's a core competency. They have that sweet taste. They have that flavor. People feel happy. There's customer value, right? How does core competency get developed? Is it through environment forces or through conscious efforts? Through conscious efforts always. Through conscious efforts always. Can core competency lead to monopoly of a product? If yes, are there any limitations for the monopoly? Why do you think so that core competency will lead to monopoly? It's a competitive world, right? We are talking about competitive strategy. If you are able to create a monopoly, nothing like it for your business. It's a very good thing for your business if you are able to create monopoly, right? Why is it bad? It's a fair competitive world, and if you're able to create monopoly, that means you have a wonderful strategy, right? Any of those, any one or all of those, if you can do all of these three things, your business is going to go up and up only, right? Any one of these is also core competencies. All of these together is also core competency. But if you can get all these three, nothing like it, nothing like it. Right, Mansha is giving a good example that right after Nokia, Alia Bhatt became the face of rival smartphones, right? But then you think it can create confusion in the minds of consumer. It is not a characteristic of healthy competition. Brand ambassador giving you customers a reason to trust you. Brand ambassador is also part of power. Absolutely. See, it really depends on the strategy. How good or bad it is really depends on how consumers react to it. Right? Sometimes something can be beneficial for one is not as beneficial for others. Right? Probably, if I give you an example, for some of the news channels, creating controversy is a type of a marketing. They feel good in creating a controversy. And some of the news channels think the right news or the clear news is more important. So it really depends on what your market is, who your market is, and you have to analyze that, who you want your market to be. So that really depends on that. Absolutely, Sanjay. It is M1 chips are going to be sold off to a lot of other companies. That is what the plan is. See, core competency to customer value, right? If you create customer value, you will create core competency. It's the reverse, right? If you have core competency, you will not create customer value. But if your product or service is able to create customer value, it will become your core competency. Absolutely. Rolls-Royce manufacturing aircraft for different airlines, right? Application to other markets, their core competency. And that is why it's Rolls-Royce. Everyone knows it. Bajaj engine having patent copywriting and subject to legal litigation, right? See, Bajaj DTSI engine, exactly. They're selling something to everyone in the industry. That is their core competence. Even their competition is buying from them. What more do you want from a business? Absolutely. Core competency increases the goodwill of the company by a very, very big number, right? That is why all the companies want to have some core competency so that their value increases. Okay. Now the question is, like you were saying, why do we have to identify and develop a core competency? Why is it even needed? I get it. We have to have a core competency, but why? But why? Because of three reasons. Right? It should provide potential access to a wide variety of markets, right? A core competency will provide potential access to a wide variety of markets, right? Now, suppose I'll tell you this. Now, you will see a lot of people buying Apple iPhones, even if they're not earning that much, right? I know people, you might have friends who do not earn as much as an iPhone even costs, right? Their monthly income is 30, 25, 30,000, and they're buying iPhones. How does Apple ensure that even the people who cannot afford their products still choose to buy their products, right? Core competency. They provide potential access to wide variety of markets. Even the people who are not Apple's market buy their products, right? That is what core competency brings, right? It should make a significant contribution to the perceived customer benefits, right? It makes a significant contribution. People buying their product feel proud, feel successful, feel happy, feel that the worth of their money is fulfilled, right? That is what core competency ensures. It should be difficult to imitate, right? It should be difficult to imitate. Your OnePlus is for 30,000. Now MI Redmi is giving for 35,000 phones. But phones are there for 35, 40,000. Samsung phones are 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh rupees for Samsung phones. But it is difficult to imitate Apple's products, right? I'm just giving an example of Apple because they are quite good in competency. A lot of other brands also. For example, the core competency of, let us say, Patanjali, right? A lot of parents, a lot of middle-aged people in India relate to that company, relate to that ideology, and it brings significant contribution to the customer. They, as a consumer, feel proud or feel happy to use that particular product, and that is their core competency. That is Patanjali's core competence, that it is able to relate to the customer, creating customer value, right? Even if it is not a difficult for competitors to imitate. Like their toothpaste, their soaps, everything can be copied. They are also copying everything, but they add value to the customer. And that is one of the things that core competency brings, right? Okay. Can we measure core competency? You do not have to measure, you have to identify your core competency. You cannot measure, but you can identify what is your core competency, right? Now, if I tell, if I tell an Olympian who is into swimming to start throwing javelin, right? That is not his or her core competency. You need to identify that I'm good at swimming. I will go in Olympics as a swimmer, right? So that is your core competency, which is difficult for others to imitate. You are the best at it, right? The strategy that can be applied by students to get selected in reputed firms, I think, score well in your exams and then start building a lot of network on social media, right? That really helps at this stage in life. You should be using a lot of networking, find connections, reach out to people, understand what they're doing, look what people are doing. Like people senior to you 3-4 years, 5 years, 10 years, look what they're doing. You get a feel that where you want to be, what you want to do, right? So one of the best, I think, professional social media is LinkedIn. That's a great way that you can go and like connect with a lot of people and see what they're doing. Chartered accountants in industry, chartered accountants in practice. What are they doing? What heights they have achieved? What is the career path they have done? What are the different courses they did after CA, with CA? What kind of job they got after that? A lot of analysis you can do from them, right? So that's one of the strategies, analysis that you can do. Right. Core competency is like a strength. Absolutely. It's a very big strength. It's a very big strength. Great. Question on the screen, everybody. Question is on the screen. Which is not the area identified in major core competencies? Which is not the area identified in major core competencies? Simple question. Straightforward, simple question. Just to revise the concept. Just to revise the concept. Which is not the area identified in major core competencies? I don't see answers. Where are the answers? Wonderful. Wonderful. The correct answer is profitability of industry. That is right. That is absolutely right. It is not the area that we identify in core competency. Rest all other areas we identify. That is customer, competitor differentiation, customer value, and application to other markets. Right? Okay. Let us jump on to understand the 4 steps to build core competencies. What is core competency? We understood, right? Why do we need it? We got it. Why do we need it? We understand, right? How does it help? We understand. Now the question is, how do you build core competency? How do you build core competency, right? Capabilities that are valuable, customer values it, which are rare, which not many people have, costly to imitate, it is very costly to copy, and non-substitutable. Non-substitutable means it does not have much alternatives. It does not have much alternatives. It is valuable, right? It is valuable. It is rare. It is costly to imitate, and it is non-substitutable, right? Are called core competencies. It forms a core competency is valuable, it is rare, it is costly to imitate, and it is non-substitutable. That means it does not have alternatives, right? When I say valuable, when I say valuable, it means placing right people in the right jobs, right? Valuable means when you have the right people in the right jobs, they will bring out services and products that are valued, that are valuable. That means there will be innovation, there will be technology, there will be new technology, there will be new product, there will be new service, right? It will be valuable. Rare, that means develop and exploit valuable capabilities, right? Once you innovate something, right? Once you innovate something, service, it becomes rare because you have made that. You're the first one who made that. So you develop a rare thing, right? It becomes rare. Once you develop something which is rare, which is very new, which is very innovative, it becomes costly to imitate because you have spent a lot of money on people and resources to innovate that, you develop it, and it becomes difficult for competitors to copy that because that amount of effort and money you have spent, they will also have to spend, right? Non-substitutable. That means the capabilities without any strategic equivalence. That means something that does not have an alternative, easy alternative, right? Something that does not have an easy alternative becomes non-substitutable, and then it becomes a core competency. People cannot copy that. You have created something that is valuable, that is very rare. Others cannot copy that, and there are no easy substitutes. Something similar to it is not there. Even when they cannot copy, there is nothing that they can even bring close to. Something similar is also not available. That becomes core competency for the business, right? So four steps are: create right people at the right place who develop innovative things and new things that become difficult for competitors to imitate and copy, and then there are no alternatives to it. There are no alternatives or substitutes to it, right? Four simple steps of how you create a competency, how you create a core competency. Simple steps, right? You put the right people in the right place, they create something very valuable for your company, which is difficult for your competition to imitate. And finally, there are no substitutes as well. So that becomes a core competency. That is something only you have, and you can mint money with that thing. That is what core competency is all about, right? Any doubts on this? It's a simple thing. You bring the right people on the right job, they create something innovative and valuable for your company. The other businesses cannot copy that. There are no substitutes. Thus, it is something very specific to you that becomes your core competency, and you use your core competency to sell your product or service and mint a lot of money as a business, right? I think it's easy and it should be clear. Any doubts, post in. Otherwise, write down if it's clear. I'll get to know if it's clear or not. Right? Reason, what does this application to other market means? Yeah, it means that your products are used by everyone in the industry, even your competitors. Start using your products and services. That becomes your core competency, right? Because even your competition is using what you sell, right? That is application to the industry, or everyone in the industry starts using your products. Like we were talking about Bajaj engines, right? Even TVS are using Bajaj engines. So, because Bajaj is good at it, it is difficult to copy. I don't see people writing if it's clear. If it's clear, do write down it's clear. Helps me understand if we are on the right track. Great. If it's clear, I'm happy to see it's clear. Wonderful. Quick question for you all. Quick question on the screen. Dash are capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm over its rivals, right? Dash are capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm over its rivals. What is that? Dash are capabilities. Read the word capabilities. What is this? That are capabilities that serve as a source of competitive advantage for a firm over its rivals. Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Or is it D? What is it? What is it? Time's up. Let me see the answers. Absolutely, Shikha. What you have written is absolutely right. I agree to that. The correct answer is core competencies. That is right. The correct answer is core competencies. That is right. Core competencies. Core competencies. The correct answer is core competencies. Wonderful. We will just touch upon this topic of value chain analysis, and then we will close the session. We will just talk a little about it. We'll get deeper into this topic in the next session. Okay. But however, as an introduction, right? Just as an introduction, we will take this topic up and then we will close the session. Okay. Great. Now, value chain analysis, right? Now, the value chain analysis for developing a core competency. Now, the CC means core competency. Now, value chain analysis is used for developing core competency, right? We were talking about customer value, right? Remember, we were talking about significant contribution to customer benefit. We were talking about customer value here. We were talking about customer value here. Now, this is where it boils down to. Value chain analysis for developing core competency. How does that happen? How does that happen, right? Describing activities within and around an organization. Describing activities within and around an organization and relating them to an assessment of the competitive strength of an organization, right? What do we understand by this? Describing activities within and around an organization and relating them to an assessment of the competitive strength of an organization. This is nothing but what we study. This is very simple, right? Describing activities within and around, internal analysis, external analysis, and relating them to assessment of competitive strength. What you are good at, what is your strength. It's the ability to provide value for money for the products or service. Now, the key word you need to remember for value chain analysis is value for money. Value for money. Value for money, right? The key word you need to remember for value chain analysis is value for money, right? Now, recognition that the organizational resources, that is your machines, your funds, your money, your material, are of no value unless deployed into activities and organized into systems and routines which ensure that the products or services are produced which are valued by the final consumer or user. I'll give you a classic example. Okay, I'll give you a classic example. Now, let us suppose you are a producer of toys for children. Okay, now you create a toy. Which like I would say it's a toy which is meaningless for children, right? It's a toy which is more like which teaches you how to cook, right? You made a toy for 1-year-old children which is about cooking and using fire, right? It is useless. It will not be valued by the final consumer or user. Even the parents will not be, even though you think it's a very good thing that children should learn to learn about food and stuff at the very young age, it is useless, right? Now, when something is useless for the consumer or the final customer, there is no point in spending money on that. That is what value chain analysis helps you understand. You need to put your money, you need to put your people, you need to put your material, your machines in producing that product or service that is valued by the final consumer. And the final consumer is only concerned about value for money. The final consumer is only concerned about value for money. And value for money is a very subjective concept. What is value for money for you might not be value for money for Vijay Mallya, right? What is value for money for your parents might not be value for money for you, right? So it's a very subjective thing, that what is value for money, and that is what businesses have to identify for their consumers, that what is the value for money that they are getting. Classic example is Xiaomi, the mobile phones, right? Bringing your technology, high tech technology, cameras, your touchscreen phones, extreme good softwares and hardwares, the durable phones in 10,000, 9,000, 5,000, 6,000 range. People are finding value for money. People are saying, I am getting the exact same technology. What I'll get in 30,000 phone for 10,000 rupees, the value for money is huge. They're creating a value chain analysis. They are doing value chain analysis. They're creating value for money. They're putting their machines, their material, their resources, their people, right, to create something that is valued by the final consumer. That is valued by the final consumer. And unless it is valued by the final consumer who is concerned about value for money, there is no point. There is no point in putting those resources to work. And a value for money for a product creates a core competency for you. It creates a core competency for you, right? It develops a core competency if you can give value for money to the consumer, to the user, right? Any questions, any doubts on this? Jami, I would really recommend for English grammatical words or tough words, go and Google and read. It's easier for me to tell, but you should have a habit of learning new words, because once you are in industry, in practice, you need to have command over language, right? I can help you, probably that is not an issue, but I would first want you to go and find meanings to those words yourself, and then I can answer as well. See, exploiting opportunities, it's more about when you're strategizing, when you're planning, right? What is meant by value chain? We'll study that. That's the next topic. But what is value for money? What is value chain analysis all about? Is creating value for money for the consumers, right? For the consumers, the value for money creation is so important, right? Absolutely, Ayush. The value for money signifies worthiness, and it is quite subjective, like I told you, right? For someone who is rich enough, who is affluent enough, a Lamborghini is also value for money. But for someone who is not so affluent and rich, he or she might think that there's no use of Lamborghini. I would get the same speed, same traffic, same road, same price of petrol, same facility, same AC, same everything for an 8 lakh Baleno or a 12, 13 lakh Honda City, right? So that is quite subjective. And that is what the business has to find out, right? Lamborghini or Ferrari is ensuring value for money for their customers. It is not ensuring value for money for you. It is, or me, right? It is ensuring value for money for those rich people, for those affluent, top tier people, right? They find value for money in it. They think that, all right, 4 or 5 crores for a sports car like Ferrari, value for money. I'm getting that benefit. I'm getting that swag, right? I'm getting that cool feel. So that's value for money. It's quite subjective. And that is what the business is identifying. And that is why Ferrari is giving value for money. They are creating value for their customers. It is not like it is not creating value. It is creating value. That's right. Absolutely. When we talk about value for money, it is always the customer. The business will not find value for money. It will find value for money for the customer. It will ensure that the customer should get value for money. Now, I'll give you an example. You might have gone to many restaurants, okay? You are like, I have experienced this. You as a family, like your family, your parents, your siblings, you go to a restaurant, right? And you think that the chapati is for 100 rupees, the dal is for 500 rupees. Even if the food is tasty, even if the food is tasty, a 100 rupee chapati or a 150 rupee naan, right? You will not find value from it. Right? You will think that this is wastage of money, like 2,000, 3,000 rupees for a dinner for 3 or 4 people. It's wastage of money. And a restaurant which is serving chapati for say 10, 15 rupees or 20 rupees, and the dal is for 100 rupees, and the bill for 4, 5 people is coming around 800 or 900 rupees, and the food is tasty, you will find value for money, right? And you will go again and again to the restaurant which is giving value for money, right? And that is their core competency. That is that restaurant's core competency, that it is ensuring value for money, right? That is how things are. Now, you would say that that restaurant with 100 or 150 rupees of naan or chapatis is also having a lot of people, is also having a lot of people there. What are they doing? Now, that is not ensured by value of money. That business is not giving value of money, but that is ensuring customer value. The people think I am socially worth enough. I can spend money on good food. I can give party to my friends. It is not value for money, but it is customer value. Value for money is a segment of customer value, which can be monetary in terms of value for money, which can be social worth. Like we were talking about social worth, it can also be social worth, right? So different businesses have different strategies of core competencies, and that is one of those. Value for money, creating value chain is one of those, right? Yeah, I think I gave an example there, right? Right. Value for money means what you get for money spent. Absolutely. That is what it is. Because online and offline sale, I think the future is online. So everything is going to be online. Like you see a lot of ad on YouTube today, right? You get a lot of ad on YouTube for 0% commission on Meesho, right? Everything is going online. It's disrupting. Every other video on YouTube has Meesho's ad today. They're spending so much on marketing, like 0% commission, zero kisko pasand hai, right? That is what they're doing. That is what the strategy is. Right, Sahil. That is right what you're thinking. Thanks, Nakul. Good to know that they're interesting. It's interesting to learn about it, right? Great. Before I go to valuation, I think we should stop the session here today because this will take another 15, 20 minutes. It's a very like hectic diagram, but it's super easy. It's extremely easy. I can assure you. It's so simple. It's so simple that we'll complete this in 15 minutes and you will understand everything, right? But we'll stop today at value chain analysis, right? And we will discuss the value chain analysis in terms of how this thing is actually for businesses. What is the goal? How do we achieve that? What are the different ways we can achieve that in the next session, right? So I think any questions or doubts for another 1 minute. Let's see if you have any doubts. So probably we'll close the session for today, right? PPT for chapter 2 I've uploaded. Chapter 1 also I'll upload. And MCQs for chapter 1 and 2 would also be uploaded over the weekend. I'm targeting, let's upload some of the good MCQs, tough MCQs for you over the weekend. I'm targeting that, right? Any questions or doubts, or we will close the session for today. See, Geo started giving as a value to customer, free of cost internet, but it's costly now, right? That is a strategy like that. It's so costly now. It's actually same as Airtel. The prices are same. Right? This will take more than 15-20 minutes. So I think we'll cover it in the next session. Probably you guys will also have to go for dinner. Right? Here, value chain analysis, if I can explain in easier or simple words, is if I can say, see, value for money, like what do you have a simpler word for value for money? Like anyone can help Ria with a simpler explanation of value for money. If I'm not able to think about it, anyone who can help a simpler word for value for money. Good to see that there are no doubts, and happy to see you are interested, and it's easy to understand this subject. Right? Yeah, thanks, Sushil. Thanks, Sushil. Thanks, Sushil. See, probably, Ria, I'll give you an example. Okay, you can go and ask your parents today what is value for money. Probably you'll get the answer, or probably just go and tell them you want to buy a pair of heels, which is 10,000 rupees. Probably they'll explain you what value for money is in the simplest form possible, right? Manish, this subject is practical. I will say that again. This subject is practical. This is not a theory subject. If you look at it from the practical perspective, tomorrow you might want to start your business. You might be working as a manager, as a senior manager, as a general manager, as a vice president, as a president, as a CFO, as a CEO in the business. Your own company, you might be the owner of your company. This is a practical subject. This is a practical subject. It's not a theory subject. Right? Okay. So with that, we'll close the sessions. We'll take up more doubts and questions in the next session and cover from value chain analysis. Right? Thank you everyone for joining in on time. And I think it's easy to understand so far. We'll keep up the same pace. We'll keep up the same questions and answer format. Right? I'll see you guys in the next session. Till then, thank you so much. Thank you for coming and joining. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.